I mean, I know you're 22, it's
Yeah,
pretty
I
jump, but
know.
like if you could be like, okay, this is what I want to leave my mark as.
I don't know, right now it's hard to say what I want my legacy to be, what I want people to say when I'm long gone. And that's how I was trained, and I want people to look at me as a full-on entertainer and a good person. So, we'll talk a few years down the line and we'll see where my head is at then. But
Before Static Major passed, there were signs he knew way more about Aaliyah's death than he ever let slip. Static and Aaliyah were tight, real tight, and both of them died young suddenly and under some seriously shady conditions. Aaliyah's plane crash was labeled an accident, and Static's death.
Louisville R&B star Stephen Garrett was laid to rest today. Known in the music industry as Static, Garrett died Monday from complications from a medical procedure.
But if you actually look at the timing, the people connected, and the weird silence that followed both of their deaths, it's hard not to think something deeper went down. See, Static wasn't just Aaliyah's songwriter. He was the mastermind behind her futuristic R&B vibe, the sound that turned her into a straight-up icon. He was in the studio, in the zone, crafting those legendary tracks with her. And because he was so close, he got a real peek at the dark stuff that went on behind the curtains. After Aaliyah passed, Static didn't make a big scene. He kept it low-key. But something in him changed. He got real quiet, real cautious, and started dropping subtle hints about how cutthroat and twisted the industry really is, especially for folks who are too real or too pure to play dirty.
What was it like working with Static?
Now, Static a beast. But there was a whole group. Static was a part of a group, and they were signed to Cash Money. He just was the lead of the group. Yeah. And so they had a little R&B group, and he was the lead of that group. So he was like, he was navigating whatever they was doing. He had songs that he'd have hooks for and stuff like that, Everybody wouldn't take to him. But I told you, me, being a little different about the women and the way I approach women. So let me hear that. The lollipop one, I got something for that, and that's how I go.
He once got asked, "What do you want your legacy to be?" And he said, I know I'm 22, but if I could say this is what I want to leave behind, then he trailed off like his mind was somewhere else, like he knew something he couldn't say out loud. Now here's where it gets crazy. There's talk that Static kept a private diary during that time, a diary full of secrets, stuff he couldn't say in public, names, events, shady conversations, things he saw, stuff he heard, all that hidden, messy drama happening behind closed studio doors. The diary never officially released, and right after Static died, people say it mysteriously vanished. But wait, some pieces of it allegedly leaked online, and from the small parts people claim to have seen, it sounds like he was carrying a lot of weight. Then just like that, he dies too, right when he was about to make a big solo comeback? You gotta admit, that's way too much of a coincidence. So what was Static really trying to tell us? Did he know the real truth behind Aaliyah's death? And did somebody make sure we'd never hear it? Let's break it down. First off, let's stop playing with Static Major's name like he was just some ghostwriter in the background. He wasn't. Born Stephen Garrett, Static was one of the most important voices in late 90s and early 2000s R&B. People just don't realize how deep his fingerprints are in the music that shaped a whole generation. Yeah, he was part of the group Playa, but his true power was behind the scenes. Static didn't just write hooks, he crafted entire sounds. He had that rare instinct, not for what's trending now, but for what's next. He was always ahead of the curve, setting vibes before anyone else even heard him.
Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling.
Now let's talk about his bond with Aaliyah. This wasn't just some studio collab. Aaliyah was one of the very few people Static really trusted in the industry. He co-wrote some of her biggest bangers. Are You That Somebody? Try Again. We Need a Resolution. And More Than a Woman. Her smooth, cool tone blended with Static's edgy, futuristic lyrics like magic. But their connection? It went way deeper than just music. People who were close to them said there was a strong mutual respect, and possibly even more. Yeah, there were rumors back then that Aaliyah and Static were more than just friends. And according to Static's own mother, it's true. They actually dated briefly in 1998. She told the source they were definitely an item. Aaliyah was crazy about him. She even said that Static brought Aaliyah to her wedding, and that was major, because Aaliyah's parents didn't just let her go out like that. That meant she trusted Static on a whole different level. So, when Aaliyah died in that tragic crash in 2001, Static didn't just lose a music partner. He lost someone close to his heart. But here's the twist. Static didn't chase clout off her name like others did. He stayed quiet, humble, respectful. And that silence? That's what makes everything feel even more suspicious. Instead of chasing fame, Static started moving in silence, like he was trying to protect something or someone. And that's exactly what makes what happened next so suspicious. After Aaliyah passed, something changed in Static. He didn't vanish, but he stopped living in the spotlight. He stayed behind the curtain, quietly writing hits for major artists like Genuine, Truth Hurts, Brandy, and even Lil Wayne. And just in case you didn't know, that's Static's smooth voice singing the hook on Lollipop, one of Wayne's biggest chart toppers. But while Static kept the hits coming for others, he was also cooking up something personal, his own solo album. After years of staying in the background, he was finally ready to tell his story. That project was called Supper Time, and it was in the works before his death in 2008. Word is, it was almost finished. Some songs were already done and ready to drop, but after Static's sudden death, the entire project got shelved indefinitely. No release, no promotion, just silence. And to this day, nobody really knows if that album still exists somewhere, or if it's been erased for good. Crazy, right? People who were part of the session say the music wasn't your typical love songs or club tracks. Nah, some of the lyrics were deep, dark, and way more revealing than the industry was ready for. One track supposedly even mentioned Aaliyah's power and hinted at things being taken too soon. That alone had folks raising eyebrows. And it doesn't stop there. Static was also keeping a private journal. Notes, thoughts, stories he couldn't say on a mic. People close to him said he was planning to come forward with the truth about what went down, but he was waiting for the right time. That time never came. On February 25, 2008, Static walked into the hospital with flu-like symptoms and trouble breathing. A few days later, he was gone, just like that. No public autopsy, no full investigation, no clear answers. He was only 33 years old. He left behind his wife, Avanti Garrett, and 4 kids. Later, his family filed a medical negligence lawsuit against Baptist Hospital East in Louisville, Kentucky. They settled out of court, but the cause of death? Still a mystery. Nothing ever fully explained, nothing made public. And here's the part that's hard to ignore. You don't even need to believe in conspiracy theories to see that pattern. Static Major wasn't the first artist to die young, and sadly, he wasn't the last. The music game is full of stories where people vanish or die out of nowhere under strange circumstances. Now go back to Aaliyah. Her death wasn't just tragic, it was messy. The official reports came fast, too fast. There were contradictions, confusion, and unanswered questions. The whole thing felt rushed, and when you line it up next to Static's story, it's hard not to wonder what really happened behind the scenes. More than 20 years later, and we still don't have all the answers. Like, why was Aaliyah even on that plane in the first place? Who gave the green light? And why was she reportedly given a sleeping pill and carried onto the plane, unconscious? According to Kingsley Russell, an eyewitness who was right there, Aaliyah didn't even want to get on that flight. Kingsley's family ran a local taxi business in the Bahamas, where Aaliyah had just wrapped filming the Rock the Boat music video. He says Aaliyah complained of a headache and told her team she didn't want to fly. She refused to board and walked back to the taxi. But that's when it gets sketchy. Kingsley says someone from her team gave her a pill, and minutes later, they carried her onto the plane, knocked out. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. Not long after, the plane crashed, just 200 feet from the end of the runway. Everyone on board died. The official report blamed it on the plane being overloaded and an engine failure. But here's the thing. There are way too many conflicting stories about what really happened. From eyewitnesses to industry whispers, it's clear. Something isn't adding up. And yeah, the crash was ruled an accident. But even back then, people in the industry were saying, nah, this don't feel random. Remember when Mary J. Blige called it spiritual murder? That wasn't just poetic language. That's a heavy statement. You gotta ask yourself, who refers to a tragic accident as murder unless they know something deeper? Mary even said, from what I know, it wasn't supposed to go down like that. But when pressed, she wouldn't explain what she meant. Why the silence? What was she protecting? That's when people started connecting dots, and big names kept popping up. Not just gossip, but real conversations about who was around Aaliyah, who had access, and who might have seen her as a threat. R. Kelly's name comes up first, for good reason. He didn't just date Aaliyah, he victimized her. He illegally married her when she was just 15, and he was 27. That's not a rumor, that's confirmed, court documented, and part of what landed him behind bars. But even after that twisted situation, other powerful men in the industry were still circling Aaliyah. According to Dame Dash, even Jay-Z knew about what R. Kelly did and still went on to work with him. Meanwhile, Jay himself was allegedly obsessed with Aaliyah. He wanted her, bad, but she chose Dame instead. And if you believe what Jaguar Wright's been saying for years, Jay didn't take that rejection well at all. Jaguar claims Jay's ego couldn't handle the fact that Aaliyah picked someone else, that she was a threat to his plans. And the theory gets even darker. Some say Jay wanted her out of the way, that her presence complicated everything, that her death made space for someone else, like Beyonce. And then there's Diddy. Aaliyah attended his infamous all-white parties, the ones everyone whispers about. Some believe Jay may have used Diddy's influence to get Aaliyah hooked on something. Not just for control, but for full-on manipulation, substance dependency, isolation, anything to weaken her spirit. But here's one thing we do know for sure. Aaliyah was surrounded by powerful, predatory men from the moment she stepped into the music industry. And heartbreakingly, the people who should have protected her didn't. The few real ones who tried to look out for her, like Static Major and DMX, both ended up dead. And yes, their deaths were just as sketchy and full of questions as hers. Some insiders say Static didn't see the full picture at first, but after Aaliyah's passing, everything changed. That's when he started keeping that diary. That's when his songwriting took a turn, less sexy, more serious. He started dropping clues, getting cryptic, and in a few interviews that resurfaced recently, Static spoke on how cold the industry really is. He warned that people in this game will smile in your face while secretly plotting to tear you down. He was starting to speak the truth, and maybe, just maybe, that's why he got silenced too. So here's the real question. Was Aaliyah's death really just a tragic accident? Or was there something darker happening behind closed doors? Did Static Major uncover the truth? And was he taken out before he could reveal it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We need to talk about this. What's your theory? What do you believe happened to Aaliyah and to Static? And if you're into digging up the secrets the industry doesn't want you to know, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Juicy Scoop TV. You won't want to miss what's coming next.